it certainly was the beginning of, yeah, that was part of it, yeah. Yeah, for sure. It was a shock. And it was a shock that I needed. And I'm so glad that I did go to Europe, and I witnessed other cultures and how they thought and how they saw the world.
Robert Redford, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I have no regrets because I've done everything I could to the best of my ability. At the age of 89, as Robert Redford closed the final chapter of his life, that sentence became a farewell both simple and proud. It was not merely a final self-reflection, but a declaration of an artist who had lived fully, with art, integrity, and civic responsibility. For the generation of audiences who came of age in the late 1960s, Redford was not just a Hollywood actor. He was a cultural icon, a face representing the American spirit, free-spirited, principled, yearning for freedom and justice. Born in 1936 in Santa Monica, California, Redford grew up in a struggling working-class family. His father was an accountant, his mother chronically ill, and the family lived frugally on every cent. Childhood joys were not expensive toys, but Saturday nights at the movies with his family, or visits to the library to borrow books. For the shy blonde boy, holding a book was like stepping into another world, the beginning of a lifelong desire to tell stories. Yet Redford's path to art was anything but straightforward. As a rebellious young man, he was expelled from college for partying too much, then abandoned studies to travel through Europe to pursue painting, dreaming more of becoming an artist than an actor. He hated Hollywood's ostentation, the intrusive glare into private lives. Even after becoming a global star, he chose a reclusive life in Utah, where he built Sundance as his own sanctuary. That choice gave his personal life an aura of mystery, especially his first marriage, which lasted 27 years with Lola Van Wagenen. In 1957, amid the smog and gasoline fumes of Los Angeles, Robert Redford, then a 21-year-old just entering the acting world, met Lola Van Wagenen, a 19-year-old student from Utah, simple yet full of character. No lavish parties, no studio lights. It was just a chance meeting, but enough for Redford to believe she could be the anchor of his life. A year later, in 1958, they married quietly, far from the tabloids eager to pry into the lives of young stars. At just 22, with an uncertain career, Redford was nonetheless determined to build a solid family. In their early years, Redford and Lola quickly built a lively home with 4 children. Their first son, Scott Anthony, was born in 1959, but fate was cruel. Just 2 months later, he died of sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. That loss carved a permanent wound into the hearts of the young couple. Barely in his 20s, still fumbling with his career, Redford was forced to confront life's fragility. Scott's death reminded him harshly that no fame could replace a child's presence. No success on screen could fill the silence of a nursery left empty. It was within this tragedy that Redford and Lola clung to each other. They knew that if they faltered, the void would swallow their marriage. From grief, they grew closer, continuing their journey as parents, with the births of Shauna in 1960, David, known as Jamie, in 1962, and finally Amy in 1970. These children brought laughter, comfort, and proof that love could be reborn. Through the 1960s and 1970s, as Redford rose to stardom with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, 1969, and The Sting, 1973, Hollywood's spotlight grew blinding. But family life remained apart. Unlike many colleagues consumed by scandals and parties, Redford often retreated to Utah to live simply with Lola and the children. He built a ranch, planted trees, tended gardens with his own hands, creating a space where his family could feel safe and filled with joy. For Redford, cinematic triumphs were only one part. The more important was the dinner table with his wife and children, the laughter in the backyard, the peace of closing the door and leaving Hollywood outside. He once confided, "I didn't think it was fair to have the shadow of that kind of success thrown on my family, and I was cautious about being taken by things that could destroy you." Lola Van Wagenen was never the movie star's wife, as the press liked to call. She was both a devoted homemaker and the one encouraging Redford to pursue art in his own way. When he decided to direct, Lola shielded him from commercial pressures. She reminded him that fame was fleeting, but family was where he truly belonged. Her quiet strength stood in stark contrast to Hollywood's noise, and perhaps that was why Redford found in her a lasting haven for 27 years. But even stability can crack. As the children grew, Redford became busier with filming, directing, and above all, his dream of building Sundance as a cathedral of independent film. Meanwhile, Lola pursued her own path, returning to study, earning a Ph.D. in history, and engaging in social activism. Their two journeys, one toward art and environmentalism, the other toward academia and activism, seemed parallel, but in reality pulled them further apart each day. To the public eye, Redford was the suave, charming dream man of a generation of American women. But behind closed doors, family dinners fell silent. Long pauses stretched between two people once bound by shared grief. Hollywood's shadow never truly stayed outside. It seeped in despite Redford's resistance, shaking the marriage once thought unbreakable. Relentless tabloids and gossip columns fed the mystery. Anonymous rumors hinted at a third party during Redford's busiest years, sparking fights that left scars too deep to heal. Some articles suggested the couple had fierce arguments, yet concealed them so thoroughly that no photo or story ever leaked. That very secrecy seemed unusual, fueling the myth around their marriage and turning it into endless fodder for the press. They came together with the purest and most genuine kind of love, flowing as naturally as a clear stream. Yet they parted suddenly, without warning. A quiet divorce, certain to leave wounds, but perhaps the best destination he could have reached, true to the way he lived, rising to the top, yet always enduring, always devoted with his whole life. Robert Redford was never the kind of star who flaunted intimate details of his private life. On the contrary, he deliberately built walls so the public only saw the surface, the iconic roles, the independent films from Sundance, the environmental campaigns. What lay beneath he kept hidden, and that very silence only fueled public curiosity. Rumors stretched across decades, from whispers that he had ties to the CIA to speculation about his health and even his death. When All the President's Men, 1976, became a sensation, some began to weave stories that Redford must have had close links with intelligence agencies to portray Watergate so precisely. Half-joking articles called him the CIA's man in Hollywood, though no evidence ever surfaced. Redford never commented, never explained. For him, silence itself was the way to snuff out speculation. Yet that very refusal only deepened his aura of mystery. The more reclusive he was, the more people believed he had something to hide. After love had ended in heartbreak, his discretion turned every aspect of his life into a target of imagination. The public speculated endlessly about the women who might have crossed his path, from famous actresses to the painter Sibylle Zagars, who would indeed become his wife in 2009. Before that second marriage, tabloids had filled pages with secret dates and romantic getaways, most of them baseless. He stayed silent, and the silence only made public curiosity burn hotter. Politics, too, became part of the chatter. As a progressive artist tied to environmentalism and Sundance, many believed he had considered running for the U.S. Senate. Even some joking articles claimed he wanted to be president. Redford denied it all, insisting he valued art and creative freedom above political power. Yet even those denials couldn't stop the speculation, keeping his image wrapped in the suggestion of hidden influence beyond film. In later years, Redford faced serious health challenges, most notably macular degeneration that steadily impaired his eyesight. Every so often, the media would launch a "Redford is dead" headline, only to retract it days later, creating a chorus of false death reports. His fierce privacy only fed such rumors. When an artist disappears too long from the public stage, people assume he's gone. But behind the curtain, his life looked very different. Though frail, he devoted most of his time to family. After divorce, after the heartbreak of losing children, Redford chose to be a grandfather, a father, a companion during the sunlit afternoons of Utah. He spent hours reading on the porch, digging in the garden, or walking snowy trails with his grandchildren. It was a Redford far removed from the cool, distant figure on screen, one only his family truly knew. And when he passed away in September 2025, it was his family who chose to share those rare photographs. They released images of Redford smiling gently at a rustic dinner table, bending over a flower bed, or beaming as he held a grandchild. Those pictures spread quickly, not as sensational gossip, but as farewell gifts, allowing the world for the first time to see Redford's simple humanity. No longer the most handsome man in Hollywood, no longer just a screen legend, but a man who had endured triumphs and losses, and who ultimately returned to where he always belonged: family. It was those images, not the baseless rumors woven over decades, that revealed the hidden half of Redford's life. A man who stood atop fame and success, yet shone brightest through ethics and sincerity. That long-ago divorce faded into the past, never a media scandal, never a stain on his career. For Redford, farewell did not equal failure. It was a necessary turn to preserve what mattered: family, privacy, and legacy. After that rupture, he didn't choose Hollywood's noise, but Sundance, but Utah, seeking the porch light and quiet garden. He continued to shape independent cinema, but also devoted more of himself to his children and, later, his grandchildren. Looking back, one sees a chain of private tragedies: losing his first son at 2 months old, losing Jamie in 2020 to cancer, and his own declining health. Divorce was but one of those milestones, an unspoken grief, but one that helped define his retreat into privacy. And that choice gave him the chance to found the Sundance Film Festival, nurturing thousands of young filmmakers and leaving an indelible mark not just on cinema, but on Hollywood's very notion of creative freedom. His legacy lies not only in unforgettable performances or a renowned festival. It stands as proof that sometimes choosing silence, choosing family, is the bravest act of all. The quiet divorce after 27 years with Lola Van Wagenen did not diminish Robert Redford. It turned him into a living testament that happiness need not be loud, that some secrets are worth guarding for a lifetime. And in that silence, Robert Redford redefined the meaning of fame, not in awards or red carpet appearances, but in what remains when all else fades: the ability to smile, surrounded by family.